and he was Bill Bradley's deputy campaign manager and currently serves on the pastoral staff at Canaan Baptist Church in Harlem in New York. Jacques DeGraff is once again back with us. Guys, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
All right, so this has become a huge controversy in the country. So the president is holding the press conference. He's talking about health care. Then he's asked about this incident of this Harvard professor. And the president, who admits early on he knows nothing about the case, goes on to say the police acted stupidly. Let's roll the tape.
I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is that there is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately.
All right, first of all, your reaction to this. Interestingly, we have Al Sharpton says that this is a new low for police, and Bill Cosby saying he had no right to say anything about it. And your thoughts?
That who had no right to say?
I mean, well, the president.
The president certainly had the right to say something about it.
But the president started out. We didn't play this part of it.
He didn't know all the facts.
No, he says, I don't know, not having been there, not having seen all the facts. That why would he say the police acted stupidly?
Because it was his reaction to the situation that the facts that are known, which were then backed up by the police department because the charges were dropped.
The
charges were dropped.
No. I have the police reports right here.
The charges were dropped, Sean.
Can I finish?
Yes, you can.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to whether or not that happened. In both police reports, they corroborate an angry, a belligerent, a confrontational professor who was not cooperative with the police.
In his house.
Right, after they were responding to help him.
Right, but as you said, Sean, both of those reports corroborate each other, and they very succinctly outline he engaged in disorderly conduct. They had no choice to do that. At that news conference, he should have said, Professor Gates is my friend. I do not know the details. Next question. He does that all the time. He should have done it in this case.
Sean, the way I look at it is that certainly President Obama comes from, as being a community organizer in Chicago, having been a witness of racial-based injustice. And this was his natural reaction. There must have been injustice here.
It was a mistake by a
freshman president. It was a rush to judgment. He shouldn't have said it. He shouldn't have said it.
But here's the deal. Now they doubled down on this, though. He was given the next day he was given an opportunity to correct the record. He refused. His spokesman tried to backtrack, but he did so in a very wimpy, weak fashion. And here's the deal. These police officers, Jacques, they're putting their life on the line. They were responding to a call to help the owner of this home.
They were not putting their life on the line in Skip Gates' house.
Wait a minute. You don't know that.
Yes, I do.
You don't know that.
He was unarmed. There's nothing in that report that suggested he was armed or a threat to that policeman.
So did that cop know it when he walked in that house?
Nothing suggests that he was a threat.
Did that cop know what he was facing?
Somebody else knows. All I can tell you is the same police department looked at the same facts and dropped the charges. So I want you to answer a question for me. How belligerent what kind of threat was an armed policeman from a 58-year-old man with a cane? What kind of threat did he represent?
Well, first of all, the police officer wouldn't know because the police officer went there on the assumption that there was a break-in and entry.
He knew that he was in his home.
Hang on. He went there on the assumption that there was a breaking and entry. That's what the call was. He asked the person for ID. The person was confrontational, combative, and not helpful to the police. Is that the right way to teach our kids?
He provided ID.
No, he did not. Originally, both reports say he refused to provide ID.
The reports also say that he identified himself and he was in his own home. He was with the cab driver who had driven him from the airport from his trip to China.
You're defending this behavior.
Skip Gates is the victim.
The fact also remains that the neighbor, his own neighbor,
the cop is not the victim. His own police department would not stand behind him.
His own neighbor called the police and said someone's breaking in. He actually should be thanking the police for coming to the rescue of his house. No, he should be questioning a neighbor who didn't recognize her neighbor.
You know what I think, Sean, very clearly, cool-headedness on both sides should have won out. And obviously there was belligerent behavior, and that's why he was arrested, not because he was breaking and entering into his own home. At the same time, of course, I think now the policeman would have looked back and said, you know what, it probably wasn't the most prudent thing in the world to have arrested him.
He's not apologizing. And what he's saying is, he really, in these circumstances, here's what bothers me the most about this. This is the President of the United States
was the mistake.
rushing to judgment.
He did.
And here,
Without a
without
doubt.
any consideration of how difficult a police officer's job, every time they are called out, every police officer has no idea what they are facing. And this is a bad example by a Harvard professor. You know,
And he's in the home. He has the officer's in there. He has no backup. So naturally, he brings them out. And the professor, granted, he has fantastic credentials, but he was being disorderly in this case.
What was
And
he doing?
the officer.
What disorderly thing was he
He
doing?
did say something about
Did
his
he
mom.
yell at a policeman in his
did.
house?
No,
not a
Is
good
that
idea.
disorderly?
Yes.
So a black
that a
man
good
cannot
example?
yell at somebody in his home?
is that a good
can't
example?
not
Is
to-
that dangerous?
you
Does
can't
that make
not
him a
to-
threat because he yelled at a white person standing in his
A
house?
white person. Oh, now you're going to
it's
turn
a-
this racial?
it's a police
You're
It's
gonna
a
make this
racial issue. It's a racial issue.
It's a
Sean.
racial issue.
It's a racial issue.
He made it a racial issue by calling the cop a racist.
And also,
The
President
victim
Obama.
made it a racist issue. Are
He's
you
not,
listening
the
to yourself?
cop is the victim of the president.
The
You
cop
don't
is
get
a
it.
victim of his own police department that overruled him because they looked at the same fact that you all are talking
They do
about,
this
and
all the
they
time.
said,
They use-
"Stand down. There's not a crime has
They
not been
used
committed."
prosecutorial discretion, and they just said this does not
The
rise to the
police
issue.
dropped the charges.
But that has nothing to do with the fact that the professor in this case acted in a manner you would never teach. You're a pastor. Would you tell your congregants to react that way to the cops?
I would tell my congregants to render unto Caesar that which is due Caesar. Respect is due a law enforcement officer who risked
Well,
his
this
life.
professor didn't give it.
And he didn't get it.
Well, he didn't. He did
then-
get
and
it
the
actually.
police
He didn't
force-
get it.
and the
It's his
police-
taxes that
and the-
pay that police
I'm gonna
officer's
say, go
salary.
ahead.
The police
Alice?
force, the president did call the police force, said they acted stupidly. Now he's trying to say that he didn't say that. He did say it,
No, he
and
didn't
that
say
was
that.
wrong.
He didn't say that the policeman was stupid.
Said
His
the
actions
Cambridge
were
police
stupid.
force
okay.
acted
It
stupidly.
all, we were alone, but I never really thought we were alone. It all depends what is, Jacques.
You can parse this any way you want. Skip Gates
I'm
is a
not
victim,
parsing.
and the police
The officer
department has
is a
dropped
victim,
the
and
charge.
the president of the United States. Father, if you do something wrong, shouldn't the president apologize?
The president doesn't need to apologize. He needs to learn from his mistake. He made a freshman error
Why
as
shouldn't he
president.
apologize?
He should not have made the mistake. He doesn't have to apologize for everything. He's
Why
the
not?
president of the United States.
Well,
he didn't offend anybody in a way that's obviously, clearly wrong. But he made a mistake, and he's not going to do that again. He's
All right,
not going to rush
I'll
to
remember
judgment.
that. Well, next time you don't have to apologize to Jesus if you do something wrong, right?
That's a great
I'm a
logical
Catholic.
conclusion, Sean.
I apologize every time I do something wrong. We have more with our great American panel straight ahead.